Welcome to the Real Agents of Change. We love introducing our like-minded friends who consider themselves an agent of change or whatever that means for them. And today, oh boy, do we have somebody who is an agent of change. Jim Wootton has actually written a book on charitable gifting of real estate long before I even knew what it was, many, many years ago. And we are so happy to have you with us, Jim. Tell us, what makes you a real agent of change?
Well, I think it starts with my background. I grew up on a farm in Eastern Ohio, and I was a PK, preacher's kid. And so I had a heart for ministry from the get-go. I remember that, by the way, I came to Columbus, Ohio in 1965 to go to Ohio State University. I met Diane there, and we both graduated. She went into teaching and I went into real estate. But in order to get graduated with the most efficient number of hours, I was enticed to take risk management as my business major, and which is risk management means insurance. So during my senior year, I worked for Bankers Life of Iowa, which is now Principal Life. They have big ads on television. Anyway, I just want to say that even in those days, every time I sold a policy to somebody who was from a church group, which is a great berry patch to do from deal to deal to deal, I would recommend to them or ask them, say, I see, $30,000 death benefit. What would you think about designating 10% of this for your church? An amazing percentage of them said, yeah, want to do that. Because I was talking to people that had the church at heart. And so I had bunches of them. And I said, wow, this is great. So I really had a heart for it. I've always had a heart for it. There was no reason for me to do this. I didn't make anything from it. My life insurance people didn't tell me to do this or even suggest it. It's just something that I wanted to do. So, my great epiphany came because I was buying real estate. My whole career has been real estate. I do still have a life insurance license to this day, but I may say one policy every 2 years or something to accommodate somebody. I'm a real estate person. But I went to buy about 12 properties at a sheriff's sale. And it was an annual sale of properties that were forfeited because they'd already been through the treasurer's sale 3 times with no bid, no sale. So when that happens, it goes to an annual auditor sale and there's no bid, no minimum, I need to say, no minimum. So I was going to buy 12 properties and I didn't have enough money to do it. So I had this Charlie Lane, the names in my book and the places, addresses, they're all changed because to protect the identity of the donors. I don't want people all over the country calling my donors. So anyway, Charlie is the real person. And I said to Charlie, I said, hey, I'm going to go down here and bid on these 12 properties. How about you back me with some money and we'll split it. He said, yeah, go ahead, bid whatever you want. So I was bidding on these properties and I got one of them was in a tough neighborhood and it was at the corner of a main street, like the main street, east-west in Columbus, Ohio. And but it was in the concentric circles of the downtown central business district. The next concentric circle is not so nice as far as household income. We all know this, right? Well, that's where it was, but it was on the main street. So I bought it. And after about a year of trying to sell it, I said, wow, I'm not selling this thing. I was driving downtown one day. I wasn't going to this property. I was just going downtown. I drove by it and I said, Lord, what do you want me to do with this property? I can't sell it. And wow, the very next building said Holy Cross Missionary Baptist Church. I said, well, I don't know. Let me just find out. So I made 4 right turns. I parked in front of the church. I knocked on the door and the pastor came to the door. I said, so, I'm a real estate broker. I own property in the neighborhood. What are you doing for parking here? He said, we don't have any parking. It's all on the street with meters and it is a problem. I said, well, I'm thinking about maybe there's a possibility I might be able to donate some land for your parking. So anyway, I called up Charlie and I said, hey, Charlie, we haven't been able to sell this lot. It's next door to a church. They don't have any parking. Let's donate it to them. He said, yes, do that. So I was at the courthouse. I knew there was some kind of a deduction available. I didn't know any of the rules that I know now, right? I knew there was something about a tax deduction, so I was going to appraise it myself. So I went to the courthouse. I'm looking at all the maps. I'm looking at this parcel. It's a rectangle. And I'm looking next door. There's another rectangle, of course. And I thought, man, if we had both of these, it'd be a square. And they could maneuver their parking a lot better. So a thought came to me, don't be silly. This guy doesn't know you. He doesn't know the church. He's not going to donate his property. I said, no, if that's the Lord speaking to me, I'm going to find out. So I went out to the neighborhood, out in the suburbs. And I said, Mr. Thompson, my partner and I own the lot next door to you, and at 22nd Main. That's where it's really at today. And I said, my partner are going to donate to the church. They don't have any parking. And I wonder if you'd join with us and donate yours too. He said, yes, do that. I said, wow. I said, now we're going to get an appraisal, and it's going to some tax deduction available here. He said, well, you get the appraisal, I'll pay for half of it. So my feet didn't hit the ground until I got to the car. I got in the car. I said, oh God, just show me how to do more of this. This is exciting. So before you know it, an attorney came to our church where I go and in Gahanna, and he said, hey, we're going to sell this house. I got married to another prosecuting attorney, and we had a baby going away. We don't have enough room. We wanted your church to have the first shot at it. And so I thought, hey, maybe he would donate part of the purchase price. I still didn't know the rules. So I said, well, I said to the pastor, let's propose that we'll pay that we'll agree to his value, but we're going to ask him to donate 25,000 of it. And he said, you think he'd do that? I said, well, even if he says no, we're no worse off than if we don't ask. Let's ask him. So we did ask him. He said, sure enough. He said, now I want to check with my CPA and see if this can be done. And a week later, he called me. I says, yeah, CPA says he can do it. He says he wants me to do it, and I'm going to do it. I thought, wow, this is great. And then I picked up a book by Barry Kay. He's a famous philanthropist. He's the largest single philanthropist to the Florida Atlantic University. It's part of the public school system. You check it out in Florida Atlantic. He's the largest single contributor. He wrote a book called Die Rich and Tax Free. And he had 50 different ways of doing things to leave a big charitable gift. And one of them was a charitable gift, a charitable remainder trust. And he was explaining this. And he says, look, you can take the tax savings from this because it is a charitable gift of the real estate. And my ears are perking up here. He said, with just the tax savings, the big losers on a gift are the heirs, right? Right? They're not getting what they were going to get because they gave it to a charity. But he's saying with the tax savings, you can pay for the life insurance and give the heirs maybe even more than they ever dreamed they were going to get from this property. So I thought, wow, this is so cool. So I said, I'm going to find out how this works. So I was reading everything on the planet about charitable giving of real estate, especially, but about charitable giving of any kind. And I learned about the bargain sale. And I said, I'm going to do some of this. So being a real estate broker, if you're a real estate agent somewhere, I don't care, you're going to have a phone call saying, hey, we love pets and we need a building. We want more church property. We want to buy the church property next door. We want to bigger this, bigger that. So whatever the charity is, they need real estate. Every person in the world needs a shelter over their head, and everybody that works anywhere needs a building, including all nonprofits. So I said, the way to do this is every time we ask for we're going to acquire property, if you're going to acquire it from anybody that pays taxes, there should be a gift involved. And that's what I've been doing. Though ever since then, every single one, we make the proposal. We say, okay, you want 400,000? How about the charity gives 300 cash and 100,000 donation credit? And we've done dozens of them. It's amazing. You know, in the back of every person's mind, especially business people that are in, making deals, or if they're any kind of industrialists or own a store, They own a commercial property. I believe it's in the back of their head. Someday, I'd like to do something significant. I'd like to make the world a better place, make a difference in the lives of people. And it happens.
You know, Jim, that it's so wonderful that you say that, because, you know, here at the Real Agents of Change, we refer to these as legacy listings. In other words, when a donation of real estate comes to the table, the way that we do it, we'll talk about that in a minute, but the only way to give the cash to the nonprofit is to sell the real estate so we can liquidate and give them the cash. And we call them
Yeah.
legacy listings because they leave legacy for the nonprofit. They leave legacy for the donor that, to your point, are looking to leave legacy and have some significance. And of course, the way we do it, it also helps to leave legacy for the real estate professional who not only is getting paid a full commission to list this property, but when the property that you've listed has not only paid you, but now given you a check for $100,000, $500,000, $1 million to give to the nonprofit world, that's legacy. That's not giving 10% of your commission or selling raffle tickets at the golf tournament. That's real legacy. So we are of the same mindset. So tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote. What inspired you to take all this information that you gathered over the years and put it together?
Well, I did have people ask me, how does this work? And you know, I started doing bigger deals. I did a $6 million office building. I did an $8 million shopping center, all these with big gifts. And eventually I did a $9.5 million country club. And so people said, why don't you tell us how you do this? So I began to, every Saturday morning, I would write 1,000 words. I figured this out. You can have a decent looking chapter with about 4 pages. And so 1,000 words will get you to just over 3 pages. And every Saturday I would write another chapter. And I would think all week about what's going to be in this chapter. And for me, the easiest way to do it was to tell the war stories and tell about a property, a donor, and what the donor's motivation was. I had one that was 8 million. It was 8 million with $2.3 million gift. He said to me, he said, well, Jim, we can't write off $2.3 million. We don't have that kind of income. I said, oh, well, you know, you can carry it forward for 5 years. And he said, well, 6 years, let's divide it into 2.3 million. We still can't write it all off. He says, you know, but I like what you're doing. I'm going to do this. And that happens all the time. Anyway, so every Saturday morning, I write another chapter, and got a bunch of war stories down. And then I said, well, I better tell them what the nuts and bolts are. How can you actually do this? And that would gets into the tax implications and the strategies, and make sure you do the forms right and make it all work. Because the worst thing you want to happen if you do a charity deal is to have the donor not get their tax deduction. You know, you don't want them mad at the charity. You don't want them mad at you. And so you want to make sure it's done right. And so Nature Conservancy has a wonderful clause that puts the obligation finally upon their own CPAs, their tax advisors and attorneys. You have to have that, because if they think they're going to write off $500,000 in the first year, and it turns out they can only write off 30% of their adjusted gross income, you don't want them upset about that. I tell them all this stuff way early so that they know it. And I don't know, you were asking me about the book. Well, I read a book by Marilyn Ross. You ought to get it. You can still get it on Amazon. She tells you how to publish a book yourself. You know, you can get a publisher and a $20 book sold to the trade. This is what they call it, the book trade. For $10, you're going to get 10% of $10, which is $1. Or you can do it yourself and get the whole $20 minus maybe $3 or $4 to publish a book. So, you know, I can still do arithmetic. But basically what I've done is I've given out about 4,000 of them without any sale price. Because my real mission is to get this. I want other people to see this and read it and do it, because I want to make the world a better place. I want to make a difference in the lives of people, regardless of what the charity is. But mainly for me, it's about churches. But I love all kinds of nonprofit organizations. And we have our realtors. We got the largest trade association in America, in the world, really. We got like 1 million realtors, right? And we have projects. We have Realtor Day where we go out and we pick up litter and we paint fences and we help it. Well, good grief, you're doing all this work to make what, 2,500? This is way, way better real estate. They need to get this legacy gift, and they've all got a donor list. We don't want their donor list, but they need to contact their donor list and tell them how that they can make a real gift the way that Cammie Baker says to make it.
You're too kind. You're too kind. When I read your book, I thought, wow, here's somebody else who does it a completely different way. Tell us what it is about the way that the real agents of change are approaching charitable gifting of real estate that has attracted you to want to add this to your toolbox.
Yeah. Well, yes, it's because, it's way bigger, for one thing, and it's over and over again, because they have people in their congregation, in their donor list, that have real estate that they would donate. I think back over the years that there's deals that I could have done if I would have known about how to do this. And the fact that you exposed the fact that more than 99% of the charities will not take real estate because this is ridiculous, that they won't take it because it involves some fix up, maybe it takes some property tax to pay, it takes insurance against vandalism and everything else, and maybe there's payments to make on the seller's small mortgage. So they just say, we don't need to do this. So they don't do it, and they're missing out on hundreds of thousands of dollars. The average, you say, is over $500,000. And to me, this is dynamite. How much work. And it's just not one transaction like I do, but it could be one, it could be two, it could be three, it could be one a year, it could be three a year. They could do it over and over again if the people just knew about it. So I think that's fantastic. The proactive procedure of reaching out to them and letting them know, hey, you can give with a check, you can give with cash, you can give with American Express, MasterCard, and push button number 5 is real estate. That is great. And I think that people will say, yeah, real estate, really? You would take that lot that we just got that we don't have any need for? I have people call me and say, Zach and I bought a lot out in Phoenix. We were going to move and live there someday, but Zach got cancer and he passed away. And now I don't know what to do with this lot. Do you have anything we could do with it? And if I had it today, I would say, well, how about the temple? The temple could use this. And she would say, oh, the temple, they don't take real estate. We're going to fix that. Every time. And I think people I think of a pastor and his wife even, that had, she got a bequest of property over on the other side of the state. What are we going to do about this house? Let's donate, we got it because we're heirs, but we don't have any need for it. What should we do with it? Well, you got a heart for pets, you got a heart for church, you got a heart for veterans. Why don't you donate it to them and get a big write-off? So anyway, this is new to me, this part. This is, and I think this is going to be the future of real estate philanthropy.
And for our viewers to know, the way that you've been doing it has been a way that the nonprofits are, in their own way, taking on risk and liability and ownership, managing, maintaining the property. Whereas now what we're saying is, when that real estate is donated anywhere in the country, in some cases anywhere in the world, you don't even need to know the address. We facilitate, we process, and just like credit card processing, the money shows up in your account. So it does give them a whole different different level. And taking it the Jim Wootton way to the bigger expanded way is just a blessing. Jim, for this interview, we're going to bring it to a close. I love letting people know a little something new about our real agents of change. So tell us something about you that has nothing to do with your work or where you're from.
Okay. Well, naturally, I'm a big Buckeye football fan. That's for sure. And, I'm a hiker. I like to walk in the woods. I love nature. And these are things that don't relate to my work, don't relate to my biography. But, and speaking of biography, I am a big biography reader and enjoy biographies on television. But, that's it. My avocations would revolve around football, nature, and reading. So I hope that's.
Might I suggest, if you like to hike in New Hampshire, there's a place called Mount Monadnock, and it is a hemlock forest. And the trees, I don't know a whole lot about that, but when you walk in this forest, the ground is like a sponge. It's so spongy and it's soft, and there's no pricklies or anything. Something about the hemlock trees makes the undergrowth not grow, and it just makes it so spongy. I spent 4 days on a vision quest on Mount Monadnock a couple of years ago, and I was barefoot the whole time. It was fabulous.
Wow. I would love to experience that. Thank you for that suggestion.
Well, friends, you are meeting Jim Wootton. If you haven't met him before, you want to meet him now. He is still a real estate agent in the Buckeye state of Ohio and is now helping to expand the way that charitable gifting of real estate is happening in this country. The Real Agents of Change have a goal of $1 billion a year donated to the nonprofit world through gifts of real estate. And we can't do it alone. We need help from visionaries like Jim and from people like you who are watching. If you have a nonprofit and you'd like to get funded, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars from real estate. If you're a property owner and you think, what a great way to leave legacy, never thought of it. If you are a real estate agent and you'd like to get paid a full commission to give this money to the nonprofit world, reach out to one of us. As you can see, we are on a mission from God to help those who are open and visionary to being a part of our movement, dare I say, our revolution. Any last thoughts, Jim, as we close this interview?
Well, I just want to say that you're a rock star and you're bringing to the whole country the technique and the tools to make it happen for the nonprofits. And the results of this, I think, are going to be world shaking. And plus, it's going to be so far reaching that the impact on people, on their lives, is going to be immeasurable. So thank you for all that you're doing with this program. Look forward to working with you as a colleague.
I couldn't have said it better. Thanks, everyone. Reach out to us if you'd like more information. Bye-bye.